blood cell analysis. He has degrees. His degrees are from Emporia State University and also Parker College of Chiropractic. He also has studies in clinical nutrition from the British Institute of Homeopathy, and he practices in Addison, Texas. Please help me welcome Dr. Kyle Hamas.
Okay, well, thank you for everyone for being here. Hopefully I can enlighten you with a little bit of information. I'm going to start with a real quick poll. How many of you have had stopped by the booth and had your blood checked? So we've had a couple people already, okay? Again, one of the things that I'm introducing is a technology that we utilize in our office as a functional assessment. It's a tool to help screen people for underlying issues that can lead towards many different types of problems. Again, it's called live blood cell analysis. There's over 50 different variations that we can detect in the blood. The blood is referred to as the river of life. The blood obviously is responsible for transporting all nutrients to and from cells, also transporting all waste products and toxins outside of the body. So obviously there's a lot that can be gained through an assessment of the blood and what's happening inside the blood. Of the different variations that we can detect problems with includes the cardiovascular system. There's different things we can detect there. Also including of the immune system. So we can see alterations of the immune system because one of the many components that we see in the blood are white blood cells, which are part of your immune system. Some other variations and things that we can see are liver health. But primarily the number one thing that we use this tool for is an assessment of digestive function. And when I'm working with patients, I'll always educate people to the fact that health starts with digestion. The second that what you eat hits the mouth and what your body does with it is in large part going to determine how healthy someone is or how healthy someone isn't. So I'm going to vary from the test itself because, come and see it if you want to see it. But the best thing is to showing you or giving you an idea of why we see what we do. So I'm going to venture into an area that a lot of people don't know, or an area that a lot of people don't know things about, and it's how the body handles enzymes. So this is going to turn more into an enzyme lecture because, again, live blood cells really looking at your enzyme potential and your digestive function and then the different variations that can come from that. So I'm going to start with the very first type of enzyme that's present, and it's called a food enzyme. I'm going to write this up because it's very important. Okay. As you all know, food in its raw form has something in it that will spoil if it's not kept. It's perishable. It will spoil if it's under direct heat, and it doesn't have a long shelf life or store life. One of the reasons why that is because it has the presence of enzymes. And I use the example of an apple often. Okay, the apple has an outer shell that protects the inside of the apple from light, primarily, and oxygen. These two things will activate your enzymes. So if I take an apple and I take a bite out of it and I set it up here on the podium, what will start to happen to that apple after a short period of time? So when that starts to brown, doesn't it? The enzymes have become activated because we broke the seal. Now those enzymes are very important because that's what helps assist in the digestion of that apple when we eat it. So when we take that apple and we chew it and we swallow it, the first thing that happens when the apple ascends down to the stomach is that there's about a 20-minute preparation time for most food, which means that there's not a whole lot the body's doing with that food at that point in time. What is meant to happen is whatever enzymes were in the mouth, and there are some, mostly they're amylase and other types of enzymes that digest simple carbohydrates, but the food moves into the stomach, and a lot of the digestion should be done before the body has to start with the second stage. So food enzymes are very important. The next type of enzyme that I'm going to introduce is called a pancreatic enzyme. Okay. The pancreas in the body produces enzymes to also help assimilate and digest food. So after that apple has been digested through its own enzymes, the pancreas will then kick in and aid the digestion a little bit more. So if it needs a little bit more to break down that food, the pancreas will kick in and help that out. Normally, if the process works correctly, by the time that food enters the small intestine, most of the digestion has been done, and now the absorption process starts. So we have slow absorption of the nutrients into the bloodstream, and here comes live blood cell assessments. So if everything was digested correctly, by the time we take a look at that blood under the microscope, we should not see the presence of partially digested sugars in the bloodstream. Okay? If we do, obviously there's a problem somewhere along that normal process. Okay? Finding out what that problem is obviously important. Okay? The next type of enzyme I'm going to introduce is called metabolic enzymes. Actually, there's enzymes located in every organ and tissue within the body. And enzymes help regulate activity. Okay? They kind of lubricate the system to make processes happen very easily. This is why we don't have to heat our bodies up to 1200 degrees to digest the meal that we just ate. Okay? So it's these chemical lubricants known as enzymes that help us with that assimilation. Well, these enzymes are also important for maintenance of health of each and every individual cell in the human body. So again, metabolic enzymes are present in every cell and every tissue of the body. So that's the number 3 that I'm going to put up. Old metabolic enzymes. Again, in a perfect world, if everything is done correctly, this process goes on. We have plenty of food enzymes. The pancreas doesn't have to overwork, and we save those metabolic enzymes for repair and regeneration of our cells on a daily basis. However, I'm going to introduce a problem, and that problem is called cooking and processing. Okay? We're going to take away that food enzyme. And now we still eat that apple, but this time we've microwaved it, or we've cooked it, we've baked it, we've done something that has killed some, if not all, of those enzymes. The same process happens. We still chew, swallow, the apple hits the stomach. This time it doesn't do a whole lot. Actually, it could ferment. Fermentation of food, as we take it in, is the cause of most, if not all, gastrointestinal issues. It's the improper digestion. So if you get gas, bloating, indigestion, heartburn, acid reflux, these are all symptoms of fermentation of the foods that have been taken in because they're not digesting correctly. Okay? So the pancreas is now responsible for all of the digestion of that food process. In this example, we're using the apple. Okay? So now that the pancreas has got to work a little harder than it was meant to. Well, you know what? If you did it one time, it's probably not a big deal, right? But what happens if we do this over the course of year after year after year? There's a problem. Because unfortunately, it's been shown that our body is given a reserve or a bank account of pancreatic enzymes when we're born. So now we're going to start taking a withdrawal from this bank account with never putting back into the bank account through eating food in its natural state. So now we keep taking away from here. Eventually, as the pancreas cannot keep up any longer, it's going to ask for help. The body is very unique in that it always wants to strive for homeostasis, which is balance. It's a healthy state. So if the pancreas is struggling, well, you're not going to die because your pancreas is starting to struggle. It's going to find other resources to help it. This is when it asks for metabolic enzymes to help out. So the body starts pulling from this reserve of metabolic enzymes, which remember, they're meant for repair and homeostasis of other cell and other cell tissue. So if the pancreas needs help and it gets it from somewhere else, but there's nothing paying back the debt. So we keep accruing a loss. Now it's not just happening at the pancreas level, it's also happening at the metabolic level. Okay? This is where degenerative disease starts. And you name it, it's pretty much tied in through the same process. The body will consistently rob and steal from itself to keep the higher priority tissues keeping you going for another day. Remember, homeostasis. So guess what the number one tissue that the body will take from in order to keep the operation of the body going? Does anyone know? It's bones and joints primarily. Okay? The reason why is because the body, again, feels like the bones and joints are a less of a priority tissue than the heart or the brain. So guess where it's going to go get its reserves of metabolic enzymes or perhaps even minerals. Okay? It's not a mistake, or it's not by chance that America has the highest rates of osteoporosis. Okay? We take more calcium supplements than any nation. We drink more dairy products and eat more dairy products than any country in the nation. But the fact of the matter is, we're so depleted as a nation that our bodies are constantly stealing from the bones and joints, thus leading to joint and bone ailments. Okay? And this process can go on many different levels. But remember, the body wants to live for today. So it's going to tell the bones, hey, give up some of those enzymes, give up some of those minerals, so I can process this food just enough to get enough energy to get me through the day. So all of a sudden we have a myriad of different symptoms and problems that can come up. They have the fibromyalgias, the chronic fatigue syndromes. All these are different variations and spin-offs of an underlying condition, which is simply not following the basic laws of how the body was supposed to work. Okay? Now, live blood cell assessments, when we do them, they enable us to take a look inside that blood to see, did the food we have enough enzymes? Did the pancreas have to overwork? Or did it have to ask for metabolic enzymes to help? If any of those did not take place, we see partially digested foods start causing different changes in the blood, which we can detect through an assessment. The first and most common thing that we see is proteins that have not completely digested in the blood. This leads to a stickiness of the cells, so they start to stick together. Okay? It has 3 different categories that it can come in. The first one is called protein linkage. The second stage is called Rouleau, and you don't have to memorize all these. It really doesn't matter. But there's 3 stages. Some of the offspins, or some of the chronic diseases that come from an inability to completely digest proteins, are the itises, which are inflammatory types of conditions. So we can get arthritis, bursitis, other types of inflammatory conditions, possibly in the gut and intestines, possibly in the arteries. Again, part of it depends upon other factors going on in the body, but foreign proteins, the body doesn't recognize protein, it recognizes amino acids. And once protein gets into the bloodstream, typically the body will rally to try to break that down, or it causes an inflammatory response. It's not uncommon, and this time of year in Texas especially, allergies are a big deal. A lot of people suffer from a lot of different types of allergies. Well, lo and behold, the underlying reason behind allergies is that it's the proteins in these pollens and molds and things like that the body does not deal with. Once they're taken into the system, the body creates an immunity response to that protein. Well, it's the same thing when we don't digest the protein down into its basic unit. The basic unit of protein is called an amino acid. The body knows what to do with amino acids. It reassembles them to make us. But it can't take amino acids that are structured to form even soy or some type of animal. It can't turn those directly into you without breaking it first down into its basic component. Okay? And that takes a healthy digestional system. Again, we can see that very easily with the live cell assessment. Another common thing that we see is called blood fat or chylus. Heart disease is the number 2 killer of Americans today. And it is large part due to an inability to metabolize fat correctly. So once you've digested the fat, if the liver hasn't been able to assimilate it, if we have lost all of our enzyme potential to digest fat, obviously that fat stays in the bloodstream. If it oxidizes, it becomes very sticky, and lo and behold, we have cardiovascular conditions. Some of the other common things that we can identify with a live blood cell assessment is just simply the health of the red blood cell. This can be done in other types of venues or other types of tests, but we can see if someone is anemic. Iron deficiencies show up. B complex deficiencies can show up because those cells should be all the same size, shape, and color. Any variation from that specifically pinpoints that there's a problem with the manufacturing of the cell, which takes very specific nutrients. Again, iron B complexes are the most common. Also, we can detect I mentioned before we could detect immune system weaknesses. A lot of times when there is partially or undigested foods in the bloodstream, it becomes a breeding ground for infectious organisms. So lo and behold, we can see fungus. A lot of times it's candida, which is a pretty rampant problem that we work with and see through many people, is they have yeast and candida overgrowths. Again, a lot of it can be seen in the blood. Because once you see the partially digested carbohydrates in the blood, or the simple sugars that are still in the blood, lo and behold, that's the food that fuels the growth of these microorganisms. We've also detected or saw a number of people that have came through and got checked this weekend with parasites. Okay, another not so fun thing to have. But you can actually see in some instances where the parasite has punctured through the cell. And obviously that's not a good situation. It can lead to a lot of digestional difficulties and many other problems as well. Okay. At this point in time, I like to open things up for questions. To me, that's one of the best things that I like getting a sense of the information that you guys want to hear. So at this point in time, what I'd like to do is simply open it up for any questions to see if I know the answers. I don't proclaim to know everything, but I'll try to give you the best answers that I can. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I have a friend that said that they were diagnosed with a fatty liver, and I've heard that a lot. What is that?
It's when the liver, again, it is losing. Let's back up. The liver, its first job is that of a food processor. Most people don't understand the function of the liver. Its primary job is once everything has been digested into the bloodstream, the system carries it to the liver. The liver reassembles things. It's like a manufacturing plant. It reassembles things and sends it back out to wherever the body needs it. Well, a fatty liver simply means that liver has been under such tremendous stress that it's not handling fat assimilation anymore, so the fat simply starts collecting in the liver. And so the liver's, again, under major, major distress at that point in time. Obviously, there's a number of other problems that are probably going on, or other symptoms that are going on as a result of an unhealthy liver. Okay, we had a question right here.
Are enzymes alive? Are they living beings?
Yes, they are. There's several different types of enzymes, and I described them up here, but let's talk about, number one is we want to get them from our food first. So we want to eat more raw foods, or we don't want to cook them to death, so to speak. If there's still crunch in the food, there's still some enzymes left. So the number one priority that we'd want to do is eat more raw food. The second thing we'd want to do is, if we're going to cook our fruits and vegetables, we would want to lightly steam them. Okay, light steaming of them with some crunch left still has some enzyme potential. Frozen foods are okay as long as when you prepare them, you don't microwave them or, again, cook them to death. Because when they're frozen, they're holding a large portion of their enzyme potential. That's why when you unthaw them, they still can turn bad. Okay, so there's still enzymes available. Microwaves pretty much kill all enzymes in whatever you're making, unfortunately. I mean, it totally just destroys them almost immediately. The key number, I'll actually back up one step. Enzymes are probably the most studied thing in all of the medical community. I mean, there's so many volumes written on this, but very few people take the next step and apply it into human health. The industry that's applied it more than any other is the food industry, most notably the canning industry. Okay? They can preserve food through canning, and all canning is heating. Okay, they heat it, they put it in a can, and then it saves virtually forever because they've taken away one of the vital components for health. Okay, the dairy industry, pasteurization, all these are processes of heat to kill the enzyme to basically help preserve the food and save them money, so they don't have to transport it and get it on the shelves the next day. Okay, so who suffers? The consumer. Who wins? It's the manufacturer, because they can keep the stuff longer on the shelves. Therefore, there's less spoilage, and they make more money in the end. Okay. Okay, that's a good point. Good question. Okay. There are supplemental enzymes. Okay, so one of the things that we typically recommend that people look into are plant enzymes is one of the supplements they use. Why plant enzymes? And the answer to that is because they're viable through many different pHs of the body. As the food enters the body, there's variations of pH. pH is a scale of acidity, and it's what makes different tissues activate. They're more active under certain pH conditions. A plant enzyme is active through the entire pH range that is encompassed from the mouth all the way through to the colon. So that is one thing that we would typically recommend that people utilize as a plant-based enzyme. The second thing, if their pancreas has been so abused and overused, sometimes pancreatic enzymes could be used. Now, what's that mean? They get them from an animal. Okay, those are not the enzyme of choice for most people in the beginning. Now, therapeutically in a clinical setting, we use those on occasion, but they're typically for short periods of time to let the pancreas get back on its feet. We got to give it a rest. We got to let it kind of get back in control. A little statistic about the pancreas. Upon autopsy, well over 85% of the American population have a pancreas that's swollen twice the size it should be at the time of death. It just shows again how overworked the thing is. Okay, so those are both forms of enzymes that you can actually supplement with, and that is a way to pay back that debt. Okay, so I always teach patients, we eat for today, we take supplements to pay the debts back from yesterday. Okay, and then if we know we're going to eat bad, well, we better supplement responsibly by adding that enzyme back into that meal. So that's, in my opinion, how supplementation should be utilized. It's not a Band-Aid or an excuse for not living a responsible lifestyle. It should be utilized to help get you back on track, and then if you're going to stray from that for a meal or something, then you can use that supplement to make sure that you're not taxing the body. Okay, so I guess the answer to the question is yes, you can get them in pill form. I have long-winded answers if you can't tell. Okay, does anyone else have any questions?
What does DC after your name mean?
Okay, I have a doctorate in chiropractic.
Okay.
That's what DC stands for.
Okay. What kind of treatment do you give for these various malfunctions?
Okay, our clinic is basically we have two clinics. We're a traditional chiropractic clinic where we treat spinal injuries and we use chiropractic and rehabilitation. We use cold laser technologies and some different things like that to assist in healing of the spine. On the other side of my practice, we use clinical nutrition. What does clinical nutrition mean? It means we're using functional assessments to determine where your body's not working to its fullest capabilities. That's what a live blood cell assessment is. Now, I have a number of other tools and things that we can utilize as well. But when I come out and I do screenings in the public, one of the best things to get your attention is to see something. People love show and tell. So if I can sit down and show your blood, a lot of times it gets people's attention. It's also a good motivator, okay? But from a clinical nutrition perspective, we do different assessments of blood, urine, hands-on techniques. We help modify diets, recommendations of the appropriate exercise. So basically we talk about lifestyle that generated the problem. And then the next component is that we do targeted supplementation recommendations and things like that to help assist the people. Okay, is that kind of giving you what you're looking for? Okay. Are there any other specific questions that we'd like to address? Yes, sir.
What about insulin resistance? Can it cause by the enzymes?
One more time.
Insulin resistance.
Insulin. Okay, that's a good question. One of the things that happens when we consistently abuse the enzyme cycle when it comes to carbohydrate consumption, again, the pancreas loses its ability to consistently digest and maintain a proper blood sugar. Okay, after that happens, yes, you can turn into insulin insensitive. I can't even say it now. You become insensitive to insulin. Therefore, you can't get the glucose into the cell. Okay, so it also can lead to a type 2 diabetes eventually. A lot of times we see hypoglycemia as something that people are really battling with, so it's a lot of blood sugar or blood handling issues that come along with that. But it's part of the picture. It's not everything. Sometimes we have some mineral deficiency that goes hand in hand with that. Again, most people are aware that chromium and vanadium are two very specific minerals that are necessary to make insulin, make that cell sensitive to the insulin so it can get it inside the cell again. Okay, but enzymes are definitely a part of it. Okay, you got to take the workload off the pancreas. Okay, does that help answer your question? Okay. We've only got a few minutes left. Do we have any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes, good point. What I have one of my office staff here, Amber. What we've done is we team up with Habitat for Humanity, and when we come out to these screening events, a lot of people don't know who we are and what we do. So a lot of times we have a pretty good offer. Normally, just a consultation and a hands-on nutritional exam in our office runs $65. Just to kind of get people started. We're offering an opportunity to come into the clinic. If you give a donation to Habitat for Humanity for $20, we'll do that first screening for you free. Okay? So that helps you know that we're here out trying to educate people, let you know who we are and what we do. And then in turn, we try to give back to a very worthwhile charity. We have those flyers up front here at Amber, so if you would like one of those, she can hand one of those to you. We also have a booth inside. Obviously, if you want to get your blood checked, we'd welcome you all to at least stop by, take a look. And we also are doing spinal screenings too if you want to check your spine. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any healthy enzyme for pancreas?
I'm sorry, say again?
Do you know any, enzyme, healthy enzyme to help the pancreas work?
Right. Typically, a generalized pancreatic enzyme support is what's necessary. You have to understand that there's enzymes specific to each macronutrient. Now, when I say macronutrient, I mean protein, carbohydrates, and fats. So the protein that helps break down, or the enzyme that helps break down protein is called protease. Anything that says ase on the end is an enzyme. So protease is a protein-breaking enzyme. Lipase is a fat-breaking enzyme. And amylase is a carbohydrate-breaking enzyme. Okay, so really it's typically a combination of all the above. That's when we use live blood cell assessment to identify. If we saw nothing but a bunch of fat in the blood, we would target our supplements towards lipase, the fat-breaking enzyme, to help the body pay that debt back. A lot of times we see people with variations of all the problems, not necessarily just one glaring one. So that's the most typical. Okay? We've got 2 minutes, probably time for at least another 1 or 2 questions if anyone has anything else that they'd like to ask.
So you said that there are a lot of problems show up in inflammation. So
From the protein side of things, yes.
protein, so if like it's bloated a lot, is that an indication of protein?
It could be. Bloated is that fermentation or putrefaction that I was talking about. Remember when the food doesn't digest in a timely fashion like it's supposed to? When that happens, it starts to basically rot inside of our bodies. It's kind of gross, but that's exactly what happens. And that's that bloating feeling, is the fermentation and the breakdown and the gases that are released from that food basically spoiling inside of our bodies. Well, not necessarily just protein. It can be carbohydrates and it can be fats as well. They help us they are very helpful in targeting which one that it might be. Or a combination, yes, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. It's one of the key factors that does, yes. That, and also it creates an acid-alkaline balance, and that can cause inflammation too when we don't have a good acid-alkaline balance. Okay. I'd like to answer more questions, and I'll be happy to at our booth, but she's telling me that it's time for me to go. Okay. I appreciate all of your time. Hope you get a lot of good information. Thank you.